Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundance Television syndicated. You can find us on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. A lot of folks have been sending messages saying, how do I find you on Roku? I've got the stick. I don't know how to find you. All you got to do is get into the Roku setting on your television, and it's real easy to find. Just look for Abundance Television. So you'll click on Abundant TV. It'll be a for Big Abundant, Abundant TV, and you'll see TV and two little letters under it. And then you'll click on that, and the icon is black and white. So it's a white background, black letters. That's how you can find it really fast. Then you click there, and then you're going to be able to pull down. On the pull-down menu, you'll be able to find our shows. And whatever's showing at 1 o'clock Central, so 1 to 3 p.m. Central, you'll find it. And also you can find us on the podcast, netnewsnetwork.net. And DeJoly, guess what? We got another podcast coming in soon. Cool. So we'll have that up and running too. And it'll just be another avenue for you guys to be able to find us that much more. Okay, so I'm really excited. I'm always anxious to talk with DeJoly about gardening and other topics as well. But I was taking a Master Gardener's class, and so a lady I had in class just walked up to me and said, and asked me a question. She said, "What are you using for fertilizer and on your garden?" And I told her what I was using as a product, and she said, "Pricey, huh?" And I said, "Well, yeah, to get the good stuff, it's kind of pricey." And she said, "Why aren't you doing it for free?" And I said, "Free? What, steal it?" And she said, "No." So no, she said, "It's free. Your husband cuts the grass, right?" And I said, "Yeah, he cuts the grass for 2 yards." She said, "You're just letting water just go down you're letting money go down the drain when you do this." She said, "So it's a real simple recipe, but I want to know your take on this." So it's called grass tea, not for you to drink now. This is for the garden. So what's your take on this, DeJoly?
Well, I think that's awesome. I think that's, I've used something like that before, but not, all organic, not all grass. I've had goat poop and grass and horse poop and grass making a tea, and it can be really strong. You have to let the poop kind of age, but it's got all grass in it anyway. They're vegetarian, and if a bug got in it or whatever, but it's mostly grass. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it would be. How long does it take to actually brew?
Well, this is her recipe. And so on the recipe, you just mow the grass. But now she said this is extremely key. So as soon as, I'm talking ASAP, as soon as that grass comes out of the bag, Phil's got this riding lawnmower with a bag on the back of it. Or if you use push mower, whatever, as soon as it's cut, you've got to go ahead and fill the bucket with it. So fill the bucket, and if you got some weeds or stuff like that, it's okay. So don't worry about that. So what you'll do is dump the clippings until it's about 2/3 full. And then you want to fill it with water. Then what you want to do is cover the bucket with a very heavy lid and place it in the shade, and you're letting it steep just like you would a tea that you make to drink. It takes 1 to 2 weeks, but she said 2 weeks is the best if you'll just wait 2 weeks. So 2 key things. As soon as, this is when you're going to get the best strength, as soon as that grass is cut. And it doesn't have time to dry out. If you use dry grass, it's just not going to work. It's got to be green. It's that nitrogen and stuff coming out of that green. So as soon as, and then another key, 1 week's okay. 2 weeks is absolute best. Now, another thing she does, we're going to look at the video in just a second. It's a very short clip video. So another thing she uses is just like an old window, like window shear. She said it's best to use cotton. You get them nylon, polyester, and all that kind of stuff. She said if you can go to the thrift store and get them. She's always getting them at thrift stores, but she makes sure that they're 100% cotton. Put that down in the bottom of another bucket, and then what you'll do is pour this tea with everything, the weeds, the grass, and everything in it. Pour that into the other bucket, and then what she'll do is gather up, and she'll make like a giant tea bag out of it. And she uses twine to tie everything together, and then she'll hang it up in the garage or somewhere, and just let that tea continually drip. And she said about half day, couple hours or whatever, and she wants to make sure she gets every bit of it out. And then she'll also, when she does that, that giant tea bag she's made, she squeezes it just to make sure it's all out and in there. And she said it is just liquid gold. And it's much better than anything that you'll ever buy. So let's go ahead and
you
look
can
at
probably put that bag full of stuff on your compost pile too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she never throws anything away. I love this lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her name is Nancy. And Nancy is awesome. I have learned so many things, just like I have from you. A lot of things from her as well. Let's go ahead and put the video clip on there. And so I'm pretty excited about that.
If you are a gardener, you have probably heard of something called compost tea. What you most certainly do know is that your crop, your harvest, will only be as healthy as the soil in which it is grown. Without attention to the soil, your produce will lack vitality and even nutrients. This is where compost comes into play. Adding organic matter back into your soil aids in the regeneration of healthy nutrients, which in turn helps your crops thrive. An even better alternative to regular compost is compost tea. This liquid fertilizer infusion not only feeds plant, but also keeps plant disease at bay. If you've been using regular compost in your garden, it's time to take it to the next level. Compost tea is superior to regular compost in that it does everything that regular compost does with the addition of oxygen. Compost tea, like probiotics, boosts the ratio of good to bad microbes. These well-oxygenated microbes add oxygen into the soil, which means the healthy microbes become supermicrobes. Here are just some of the great things that will happen when you use compost tea in your garden. Stronger plant growth. Your veggies will be heartier and tastier. Your flower blossoms will be bigger and leaves will be greener. Stronger root systems. With the addition of compost tea, roots will grow robustly and begin to pull nutrients from deeper down. Stronger immune system. Plants, like humans, have an immune system of sorts. Using compost tea strengthens the immune system of plants, giving it the ability to keep disease at bay. Accessible nutrients. The nutrients in compost tea are readily available and easily absorbed. All natural fertilizer. You can achieve a beautiful and healthy garden with the addition of compost tea that will not harm insects, wildlife, or native plants. How to make compost tea. Ingredients: 10-gallon bucket, aquarium pump, high-quality compost, sachet or brew bag to put the compost into, water, compost catalyst, a commercial mixture that encourages the microorganisms in the compost to multiply. You can also use a cup of molasses. Fill your bucket almost to the top with water. If it is tap water, allow it to set for a day so that the chlorine can be released. If you skip this step, the chlorine will kill all of the beneficial microorganisms. Place your pump into the water. Add the catalyst to the compost. Put your compost into a sachet or mesh bag and put this into the water. Turn the pump on and let it do its work. It will pump oxygen throughout the water. This will encourage the beneficial bacteria to start working. Allow the pump to work for a full 24 hours. The end result is a frothy elixir full of nutrients, bacteria, nematodes, and protozoans that will feed and protect your plants. Remove the sachet with the compost and spread the solid compost in your garden. It is best to use the compost tea as soon as you can, after brewing. If you let the tea set for more than one day, the organisms will use up the beneficial oxygen.
Okay, so that was pretty awesome right there. Now, again, you don't have to go through the whole process they were going through. You don't have to add anything. You don't have to use the pump. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And it does all the work for you. I mean, you just got to sit back and be patient for 2 weeks, but you know how I am. I'm going to be peeking in there. Don't do that. Let it do its thing and just let nature take its course.
Well, it looked like that process that they were using took less time, but you had to add that nutrient and you had to add molasses or both. I think it was both. And to me, it's like, I don't need it that fast. I can wait 2 weeks.
I can wait 2 weeks. I most certainly can, especially when you're saving some money. I can use that molasses in my cooking. Absolutely. Now, this is, the hydroponics garden that I've started. And we're going to get back to this tea in just a few seconds. But I just wanted to give everybody a glance. And we're eating salads all through the year. And it doesn't take long to do this. another thing you can do to the hydroponics garden, you can add just a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, and that's adding some oxygen into the hydroponics system. And it's growing faster. It's a faster process when you do it that way. But I'm going to tell you, I love the lettuce, and it's good and it's crisp. And I went on ahead and took it out, and I want you to check out the roots.
Nice. Really
Very
nice.
nice roots. Those are huge. This time of the year in Alabama, now I know in different parts of the country, you guys are sending messages about, you can grow, if you're up in Michigan, you don't have to worry. I mean, it's hot there too, but not like it is sultry hot here in Alabama. And if I plant this lettuce outside this time of the year, it almost kills it. I mean, it's just that sun rays, and because you got to have sunshine, but then you can't have all shade. It's not going to grow.
Right.
So to make the hydroponic system, to me, is the best thing that ever happened. And it costs
with your hydroponic, how do you give it that sunlight that you're talking about?
Got it right in front of the sliding glass door, which is facing the south. And it gets all the sunshine it can stand. And then another thing you can do at night, I keep lights. Now you can buy the lights, gardening center lights. And I have some of those. And I actually bought them years ago before they're almost doubled in price now. So I got them at a good time. Mm-hmm. Back then they were like $10. And they're really, really good. I've not had to change a bulb or anything. They're really good. And I keep them on just about 24/7.
Wow.
So what you can do, you can go to Lowe's, one of our sponsors, and for a lot less, you can just buy the shop lights, and then all you've got to do is just hang them up on the hydroponic system and just plug that sucker in, and it's bigger. You don't have to have as many of them. So if you've got a 2 or a 4 shelf, 2 to 4 lights, that's all you're going to need, and costs a lot less than what I've got now. But anyway, I love growing things. And in the wintertime, I drive Phil crazy because I've got to see some green. And so this way I can see some green in the wintertime when there's no sunshine. It's just drabby, rainy days or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I want to know because I know you're in, compost and all this kind of stuff, and the do's and the don'ts and what you shouldn't do with compost. So,
well, I'm not an expert, but I do have several years in the experience of it. You do have to turn it.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okie doke.
Okay. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for 2 or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio. Time flies, especially when we're talking with DeJoly and we're talking about compost. Do you like to identify as Donna's talking with DeJoly about compost?
Well, it's a fun subject.
It's a necessary subject. You have your own garden, save a lot of money.
Oh yeah, yeah, because you're always finding things in the yard or I only put vegetables and fruits in mine. I don't put any meat or products that have fat in them. I don't put my spicy stuff in them. I just put the real one ingredient thing, which is either a piece of lettuce or I don't put a bunch of stuff in it. But then you do have to turn it, because depending on where you put your compost pile, it'll get hot, and because as it decomposes, it gets heat in it. So you turn it, and it just makes fantastic dirt. Because I live on a mountain. If I had dirt, I would have to bring it in. If I wanted just dirt, right, I'd have to have a truckload of it brought in and left in my in my driveway, and then I have to shovel it over to my garden. But this way, I have ready-made just by nature, and it's full of earthworms. And I now have a huge vine that's coming out of my old compost pile that's going to be ready for next year. But it's a vine with winter squash in it, because I put, the seeds from the winter squash, and the leaves, I'm telling you, they're 12 inches wide and they're just growing prolifically. So I'm letting it go, because the squash that I planted from, the starts that I had from Lowe's, it didn't, the heat, the animals, whatever, they ate it, and it died. So now I have this huge plant coming out of my compost pile that's from last year. So, those are the kinds of things that benefit you, because you can have this rich black soil that comes from letting it sit for a year, and build the second one. I always have 2 compost piles going. So, and it gives you such high nutrients for the plants that you do have. I can say that I mix the dirt that I've brought in, like from, Lowe's and their bagged soil, and I mix it with my compost in order for my garden to really be rich. If I could, I'd only use my compost pile dirt, but I don't have enough. So I'm just one person making compost. So
that's a benefit, because we have, a lot of folks are actually growing and having gardens just using hay bales.
Yes.
Do that. And so, but that's a fascinating idea to me, because, you have no dirt or anything. How does that work, I wonder?
Well, last year I grew my strawberries on hay bales.
How did it turn out?
Really well. In fact, this year I didn't, and they didn't hardly do anything, and they're done. So to me, I may go back to straw bales next year. Yeah. But you just keep them wet, and allow them to spread. And I put a tiny bit of dirt with them when I put them in, but that's it. I don't have to do anything else. And then they spread just like they would in the topsoil that you get. So yeah, hay bales are pretty good, but the thing you have to be careful with is not to let the hay bale rot, because that will destroy your strawberries or whatever you're planting there as well.
Yeah, it would start some kind of root rot maybe if you put too much.
Right
there.
Yeah.
So this is another subject too, and this comes to the weird weather we've had this year. It has been really strange. We had, like, our fruit trees, I'll use that for example. We had a huge harvest last year of apples and pears and peaches. I had peaches all over the place. This year, basically nothing. Yeah. And it's because we had all these blooms, and then this crazy late frost comes in, just destroys everything. Pretty sure that, but previously, before we had the fruit trees, we would go, it was a place in Georgia we would get peaches from. And back then it was like $20 or $30 a bushel, probably $60 a bushel now, because of what's happened, with all this. But how can you ever be ready for it? You
don't, farming and gardening are two tasks that are very temperamental. They have to be, they're driven by the weather. You can't just do it in a vacuum. You have to have good weather. And the very same thing happened with mine. Plus the Japanese beetles came and ate my apple tree up at the top. So all the blooms that I had, and I had a huge number of blooms, but no apples at all. So the frost that we got after the bloom just took everything. I was very surprised because my fig tree kind of died back, and I only had was like sticks hanging out of the ground, and now I actually have figs coming on it. So I don't know what's different. I didn't have very many blueberries this year either.
Oh,
and
we didn't either.
I had a lot of green, but hardly any blueberries. So I was kind of disappointed over the fruit crop that I had.
Yeah, I've had the exact same reaction. Figs are doing much better than they did last year. Last year they were horrid. I guess the figs liked the weather, but the rest of the fruits didn't.
They must. Yeah, I was just thinking about your talking about your peach tree. Mine basically turned yellow right after that frost and never came back. I mean, because they had flowers on them. I took pictures of the flowers just to prove it to myself, but they didn't have anything, no peaches and no apples and hardly any blueberries.
The only thing I can think you do, now we're going to have to top the fruit trees. They're just too tall. And so we're going to have to do that next season, time to do that. But my only thought is, could you put a sheet? I mean, like a huge sheet over? I mean, it'd have to be a big one.
Yeah, have to be a big one.
Yeah,
and they've got to be able to get sunlight. They can't just, you can't totally cover it with a sheet. But if you had a real tight net, so that those Japanese beetles couldn't get through. And I treat my yard with a natural grub killer, because that's their babies. They drop them in the ground, and you just really have to stay on top of it. And last year I treated it, and this year I hardly have any mole tracks, so it wasn't because they were coming up out of the ground. It was because they were coming in from somewhere. And they even ate the wild blueberries, blackberries, that are on the other side of the fence, the wild ones. And meaning the leaves, they kind of totally decimated the leaves of those. And that is a surprise to me, because they've never done that before.
Yeah, same here. We have two different patches for the blackberries. Now on the one patch, which is closer to our yard, that one's okay. But it's the other one was just to eat alive with all those little lacy leaves where they're eating all those leaves. But from my understanding, I was talking with Brian Brown. He's with the DeKalb County Cooperative Exchange Office, out of Auburn. And so Brian is one who teaches the classes, and he's on the show once a month. And so I was talking with him about that, and he said, you really got to be on top of them early in the season. Right. And, do whatever you need to do to the ground to kill. Right.
And this year I had an abundance of snails. They just ate up my tree, my bushy flower plants, because I have a turmeric plant that's huge this year, but it has holes in the leaves in different spots where the snails have just done their thing, and the lacy part is the Japanese beetles. So I had some gladiolas and some canna lilies, and they just made lace out of it. So the flowers bloomed, but the leaves were horrible.
Yeah, they get into your roses. They get into absolutely everything. Basically, we're going to have to call it a day. But how can folks find your books?
They can find it on Amazon, Amazon.com. Just look for my name, or my title is All Together Now. So they can find all three of my books there, but just look under my name at Amazon.com.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and call it a day, and she's going to be back on in just about 2 weeks. So DeJoly, looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Everybody hang in.
Thanks, Donna.